Hi, thank you for viewing the channel. This film is about a former Army captain who becomes cruel again. The film begins with a United States Army Special Forces veteran named Chris, who has just returned to his hometown in Washington, D.C. after 10 years of service. On his way home, he then passes an abandoned factory. Chris is disappointed to see the factory closed because the factory used to be a place to find work. The local sheriff then approaches and greets him while he is reading the closing notice. When the sheriff recognizes Chris, he offers him a ride home, which Chris initially declines. Chris then gets into the police car after the sheriff mocks his arrest. He is then reunited with his sister, who is now a paramedic. At home, his father and mother meet him, and he tells them that he is back for good. As they enjoy a meal, Chris then tells his family that he is looking for a job at the factory, but they never told him that the factory was closed. His mother then claims that they don't want to bother with things like that when his father was laid off from the company. Chris then tries to get along with Pete, his nephew, but Pete has a lot of attitude and leaves without dinner. The next day, Chris is working on fixing the porch stairs when his high school best friend Ray visits him. They meet, and when Chris offers Ray a drink, he declines it, saying that he is trying to avoid alcohol and has not had a drink in 14 months. Ray then invites Chris to join him in a football game with some of his high school friends, and Chris accepts. Jay Hamilton is then introduced, who comes from a wealthy family that used to own the local lumber mill and now owns a casino in town. Jay's friends also join him, having fun. These friends are also the guards at his casino. Throughout the game, Team Hamilton is very strict. Chris observes Pete near the bleachers while playing. He hangs out with some teenagers who are smoking. The game is going well until Boat, one of Hamilton's teammates, takes a rough kick to Chris and injures his knee. The game ends with everyone on good terms because Chris doesn't confront Booth about his rude behavior. Chris and his friends are then invited to attend Hamilton's casino. Pete then walks by with his little circle, and Chris warns Pete not to see his friends again, but Pete just smiles and walks away. They then arrive at Hamilton's diner at night and are very pleased with the atmosphere, surrounded by waiters and dancing, scantily clad women. They then meet Hamilton, who instructs his staff to treat the group like VIPs and brings them drinks. Chris is escorted to a secluded booth to dance. However, he realizes that he recognizes the dancer and observes her. When the woman sees his face, she stops. Danny then calls out to her old man, but she continues walking away. Chris is not pleased with the interaction. He then observes a dice thief using dice there and confronts him. The man calls security. A fight ensues and Chris is knocked out and taken underground. He awakens to find 3 men holding him down while the booth removes his name tag. The man then cuts off his limbs with a pocket knife. Chris is left for dead on a bridge before he is eventually hit by a truck and taken to the hospital. The doctor tells Chris's family that he has serious injuries, and whoever did this meant to kill him. A weaker person would not have been able to survive such an attack. Later, Chris is taken home to buy himself some food, and we see him sleeping and spending time with his family. Piet also took care of his uncle and cooked for him. A few days later, Chris gradually recovered and started exercising until he finally got back to his usual routine. Hamilton then showed up one day while Chris was working on some old steps and apologized for whatever his men did to him. He offered him the position of head of security at his casino, which Chris politely declined. Ginger then asked to reconsider. However, Chris insisted that this was his final answer. Ginger Hamilton then took out an envelope filled with money and offered it to Chris as payment for everything. However, Chris predictably declined. He also told Hamilton that he would file a report against the casino and the attack, and against him. So next, Chris stops by the police station and discusses the report with the sheriff named Watkin. To his surprise, the sheriff informs him that the case has been investigated and there is not enough evidence to charge the men. Watkin then claims that since the factory went down, the casino has been the town's only source of income, and therefore it is impossible to tear it down or take action against the owners. After hearing all that, Chris then leaves helplessly, but not before warning Watkins that he will reveal everything. Long story short, Danny visits Christine the next day, and they have a romantic history. They walk around together for a while and discuss the town and how crooked it is. Half jokingly, he suggests running for office in the upcoming election, to which she replies that she might. When Chris returns home, his mother tells him that Pete has died of an overdose. They then go to the scene where Michelle tells them the boy is stable, but he is very close. He tells them what he used. Piet's friends admit to encouraging him to do it. Chris approaches them and demands to know who gave him the stuff. The young man is furious and claims they got it from the casino security guard. Chris ignores his parents' warnings and goes home to get his gun and heads to the casino. At the last minute, Rhea changes her mind and leaves the gun in the car and grabs a stick from the truck and goes into the casino and smashes the slot machines. When the boys try to stop him, he beats them with a piece of wood and his bare hands. He takes the stick and throws it through the one-way glass window of Jay's office. He goes out to the street to see the police and is arrested for assault on the premises. He later meets with a lawyer about his upcoming trial. Jay later appears in court with a number of witnesses from his casino who say Chris attacked them. He is said to have committed many assaults because of his military training, and he seemed out of control that day. Chris then notices his lawyer's attitude and believes he is also corrupt. He then immediately fires her on the spot and demands that the judge allow him to plead his case. The judge then tells him that he cannot ask for a mistrial, but Chris is adamant. He reminds the jury in the courtroom of the community's past pride and how the town he knew would never allow a casino to flourish, a casino that takes advantage of its patrons and sells illegal goods to young people. The court then urges Chris to stay on topic and avoid any civil speeches. But Chris reveals his intention to run for flipper with a promise to clean up the corruption in the town. He shows the scars from the injuries he sustained when Jay's thugs beat him up in front of the jury and the entire court. Hearing all this and seeing his scars, the jury then finds Chris not guilty and acquits him. The entire town is overjoyed and everyone starts chanting for Chris to run for sheriff. Long story short, Chris has been elected and is getting ready for her first day as sheriff. She then gets into sheriff's truck and heads to the police station. There, Watkins assures her that every deputy is a good and loyal man. Chris walks into the empty police station and informs them that they have all been fired. Later, while Hamilton is riding his Porsche with his girlfriend, Chris stops and makes veiled threats. Hamilton often taunts Chris's newfound authority and tries to bribe him. As Chris walks away, he breaks Hamilton's taillight and orders him to fix it. Chris later visits Ray and invites him to become a second-in-command to add to his forces. Ray initially turns him down due to his history of addiction. However, Chris tells him that this is why he needs Ray's help. He wants to dismantle Hamilton's illegal empire, and he needs a dedicated force to do it. Ray eventually agrees, and the two of them drain the empire one by one. They chase after Hamilton's men. Ray then claims the fruit he is selling is 5-star quality, implying that the fruit is made in a factory. Chris then suggests that they go and get it. However, Ray claims the fruit is because the person selling it is clean. they must track down the supplier. The trail eventually leads them to Booth, and they manages to capture him after finding a package on him to make him talk. While Booth is being watched, Chris and Ray decide to dismantle Booth's special pickup truck. They are still unable to force Booth to give up his knowledge, but he warns them that they will get hurt. Chris offers to give his father a shotgun to keep him safe at home, but he refuses. Chris hands over the shotgun, and they warn each other to be careful. Back at the station, Chris urges Ray to watch the house because she knows that a pregnant woman will not stay silent. Danny later visits Chris at the station to learn that the fruit boat was captured during the night. He brings her a homemade dinner, and they share a kiss after Chris learns that he quit his job. They rekindle their relationship there, and then they intend to look for food. Suddenly at that time, Chris's truck explodes, and Boo laughs out loud. Then the former series and the firefighters launch an attack on the police station. They shoot Chris without knowing that Booth is in one of the cells, which Booth quickly realizes. And he also then starts screaming for Chris. To help him get out, Chris orders Danny to hide in the foundation of the building and gives him a gun. He then approaches Boet and takes advantage of the situation, preys on him to leak details about Hamilton's illegal factory. Boet then admits that the factory is made in an old lumber mill, but he is shot and killed before Chris can free him. Chris manages to get Watkins and his men back to his house with the help of Denai. Then more Hamilton thugs come to attack Chris's family, but Ray appears on the scene and with the help of Pete and Michelle is able to hold the fort. When Chris arrives, his father then shoots the previous intruder. Chris then drives to the old factory, reassuring everyone that everyone is safe where he finds a complete illegal laboratory. He quotes deeper into the factory where Hamilton is waiting for him. Chris tries to catch him, but Hamilton tricks him into activating a trap door while Chris is hanging. Hamilton then slams him, saying that he should have accepted the job offer instead of trying to be a hero. Since this is his hometown, however, Chris manages to pull him up, and they both sink further into the facility. Hamilton manages to hit Chris, causing him to fall out and injure his leg. He flees into the surrounding woods, chased by Hamilton with an axe. While hiding, Chris manages to realign his dislocated bone, allowing him to face Hamilton's attack, and they engage in a fierce fight which ends with Chris defeating Hamilton. He stands over Hamilton that this affects their relationship. Since this is now his town and Hamilton is arrested, Chris and Ray then shut down the corrupt casino. Ray then sneaks away with some memories, which is humbly reviled by Chris. They then get into a car jokingly whether Hamilton has built a casino in prison, and we then get to see the public arcade Kuno has reopened, providing jobs for the locals. The end? Okay, that's it for today's video. What do you think about this movie? Don't forget to write in the comments column. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, share wherever you like. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.